大家好, it's Ruby Velvetina, and welcome back to my channel. So today is going to be a special video. I know, 2 special videos in a row. You guys are so lucky. But anyways, today's video is going to be a very special video because it's Sonic's birthday, or at least the week of Sonic's birthday. I don't know when this video will be put out. I might end up missing his birthday, but I'm going to try to post it on the week of his birthday. But anyways, we are reaching the 35th anniversary of Sonic the Hedgehog, and of course, Sonic's birthday. So I wanted to, make a video to pay a tribute to the franchise. I've always been really bad at paying tribute to the franchise and stuff because, I don't know, this type of stuff is just not my thing. But I wanted to do it this time because in the recent years, the franchise has helped me in a very painful time, which we'll get into. Okay, so a few things before I get started. I am going to be very rambly in this video. I am going to try to be organized and stuff. I'm going to try to put timestamps in, but no guarantees and stuff. But yeah, I'm just going to allow myself to be very raw. I'm going to be probably very vulnerable in this video. More vulnerable than I have been so far. So yeah, please excuse me if I end up crying. So yeah, I do have notes, so I'm going to try to stay on topic. I'm going to try to give myself structure, but it will be more rambly because, as I said, this is a video for me to be vulnerable and to talk about why this franchise means so much and how it's impacted my life. Okay, let's get started. Anyways, so let's start from the very beginning. How did I get into Sonic? So it all started when I was like 6 or 7. I was watching one of my friends play a game on his DS, and it was Sonic. I don't remember which game it is. Anybody in the comments, if you can recognize what game it is by my description, let me know. But anyways, it was this game where the characters were lined up in a line, and you could attack the enemy with each character, like, one by one, like, one at a time, and stuff. And I still remember the moment I fell in love with the character. It was this cutscene where he's running. I don't know why, just the angle and everything. I just fell in love, and it ended up becoming, it ended up growing, and my friend would bring in his Sonic toys for show and tell. I remember he brought in Super Shadow and Metal Sonic, and I thought Shadow was yellow, but my friend was like, no, he's not yellow. This is his super form. He's actually black. So yeah, and then I caught Sonic X on TV, on cable TV, and that's where it started booming. My obsession started booming. And hearing the characters' voices for the first time just awakened something in me. I still remember the very first episode of Sonic X I watched. It was the episode with the character Molly. And so that was a Shadow episode. I was a little disappointed because I really wanted to see Sonic. But you know what? Oh well. But yeah, I remember it, and oh my gosh. And then the next episode was when Shadow, spoiler alerts for Sonic X, was when Shadow was going after Cosmo, and that was the episode where Sonic appeared, and I got to hear Sonic's voice in Sonic X, and I was really happy and stuff. I remember I would watch Sonic X religiously. I would wake up at 8 a.m. every Saturday to watch it, and I remember I would get really upset when I had to miss it, and they would, play reruns of it, so I would watch it all the time. I'd rewatch all the episodes. I think I've watched every episode. So yeah, but I really like Sonic X. To me, Sonic X is still the best animated adaptation of Sonic. I will, if you want to debate me on it, we can debate on it. But yeah, and then I remember when 4Kids went out of business, and I was so sad because I wanted to watch Sonic, and then he's not there anymore on live TV. So yeah, that broke my heart. Also, I remember my very first Sonic plush. I remember my mom and we went to Toys R Us, and then I saw the 20th anniversary Sonic plush at Toys R Us, and I remember my mom wrapped it for me, and she told me which present it was in, and I got to open it early on Christmas Eve. And then I remember I would go back to Toys R Us, and I saw the Tails plushie that goes with the 20th anniversary Sonic plushie, and I got that, of course. And I kept going because I thought they were going to release more characters, but nah, they didn't. But I did get Classic Knuckles plushie, and then recently I got my very first Japanese Sonic plushie, and he's super cute. I love him so much and stuff. And honestly, American Sonic plushies don't compare anymore. He ruined my expectations for Sonic Plushies because he's just my favorite now. But my very first Sonic plushie, I still have him. I'm always going to keep him. He's always going to have a special place in my heart. So, but I'm sorry, dude. You got dethroned. But yeah, but he'll always be special to me. But I do love my Japanese Sonic Hello Kitty plushie because he's so cute. Ah. But yeah. Also, ever since I was young, I've always really liked Sonic. He has always been my favorite character ever since I was young. I kind of feel out of place because a lot of female Sonic fans really like Shadow. And I ended up liking the main character. I know, I'm basic and stuff. But I will fight you if you call me basic. Because to me, Sonic isn't basic. Alright, we can get into a whole tangent on why Sonic is not basic, but that's for another time because it'll just get too long. I have to admit that I've always had a crush on Sonic. I never admitted it when I was young because I didn't know, and to be honest, I kept denying it, but I can't deny it any longer. I've had a crush on Sonic, and I know what people are gonna say. Girl, that's a hedgehog. Why do you have a crush on him? It's okay. So my crush is like an admiration kind of thing. All right, it's not the I will bang this hedgehog. It's I like him. You know, he gives me warm feelings. So yeah, he was my very first fictional crush. My very first fictional crush is a giant blue hedgehog. But you know what? I won't have it any other way. Sonic is great. You know, he beat Leon Kennedy for number 5 on Japan's poll on which character would you give Valentine's Day chocolate to. He beat Leon Kennedy, the heartthrob of the gaming industry and stuff. You know, I'm not alone in, you know, my admiration for Sonic. But yeah, I've always liked Sonic as a character because underneath all that cockiness, that confidence and stuff, he always had this gentleness to him, and it just is so infectious for me and stuff. And my favorite English voice actor for Sonic is Jason Griffith because Jason Griffith brought that gentleness to the forefront. I feel before Jason Griffith, we didn't really get to see much of Sonic's gentleness. We got to see bits and pieces of it from, you know, older media, but I feel it was never brought to the forefront like it was with Jason Griffith. Jason Griffith just brought this gentleness to Sonic. Yes, he's confident. Yes, he's cocky, but he's also gentle. He'll reassure you when you aren't sure of yourself, and he'll try to cheer you up, and he'll sit with you when you need a friend. And to be fair, Sonic can be inconsiderate at times, but in the end, deep down, you know, when you really are in need, he's going to be there for you. And I think that's why I really like him, you know. I think that's what makes him compelling and stuff, and makes me have a crush on him. But yeah, so I'll be honest, I wasn't very into Sonic games, and it's mainly because I'm into the franchise mainly from a story perspective. I'm mainly in it for the characters of the story, because I will say, even though the games are not that good, I do like most of the stories. I do like that Sega tries to put him into new situations, and it's always trying to do something new with the character. So that's something I really appreciate and stuff. But I have played a few Sonic games. I played Sonic Rush. I played the Olympic Games, and then I played Lost World and stuff. And I think that's the only games I played. Oh, of course I played Sonic Dash and Sonic Forces on mobile. But yeah, but something about Sonic Rush and Lost World, I never finished those games. So for Sonic Rush, that stupid Water Palace Stage 1 is tripping me up because, oh my gosh, that Water Palace. So longtime Sonic fans know that the water stages are the most anxiety-inducing stages ever. And stuff. I have anxiety, and that just, oh my gosh. When the music comes on, oh my goodness. I almost beat it, but then the water. I've never hated water so much until Water Palace. Like, if you want to have a reason to hate water, play Water Palace on Sonic Rush. But yeah, and then Sonic Lost World, I had to be on like this flying thing. I had to go through this tunnel, and I'm still stuck on it, and I don't know how to get out. So I never finished a proper Sonic game. I have bought Frontiers, but I haven't played it, even though I bought it like 2 years ago. So I don't know why I bought it. I do want to play it, but I will be honest, I'm not much of a gamer. But Oh, I'll get to it at some point when I want to. So, yes, but Sonic's direct impact on me was definitely through my art, because I wouldn't have gotten into drawing so seriously if it wasn't for Sonic. I still remember my very first Sonic drawing and how I looked up on YouTube how to draw him, and yeah, I remember I would draw Sonic a lot. That's pretty much all I drew, and I would make OCs, of course, because how can you be a Sonic fan and an artist if you don't have Sonic OCs? You're not a real fan if you're an artist and you never made Sonic OCs, okay? That's a staple of being a Sonic fan as an artist. But yeah, I had OCs. They were my babies, and I remember I would pair my main OC with Sonic, of course. I did pair some OCs with Shadow, but my main OC was with my boy, of course. So, yeah. And, what else? But eventually, at like around 11 years old, I wanted to go away from Sonic. My interests just changed, and so I ended up leaving Sonic. I got into other things. I got into anime and stuff, and it would be 10 years until I would come back to the franchise. And it was about, I think, 3 years ago I got back into the franchise, and I think I went back to it in a very good time, because as an adult, my whole adult life so far, I've been very lost on what I want to do with my life. And not only that, I've been feeling very trapped and pressured because, as an adult, your parents are getting old. They want you to get a job because, they don't know when they're going to go away and stuff. And Sonic and his message about freedom really appealed to me. It brought me a lot of comfort. It, encouraged me to, hey, to break the mold and stuff. So, yeah. And, yeah, so it's been a big comfort in my life. I have been drawing Sonic again. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree, if that applies and stuff. So, yeah. Okay, so we're going to get into the meat of the video, how the franchise helped me when I needed it the most. So, it started a few years ago. I started dating. Like a lot of adults, I tried to get into dating. And we went out a few times, and then it ended horribly. It was one of the worst experiences of my life and stuff. I remember I cried 4 times in the span of 2 days and stuff. And I was hurting all over. It was not a very good experience, and my heart just broke. And so the day after that happened, that fiasco happened, my dad brought me to go see Sonic 3, and we had a little bit of trouble, but we were able to go see Sonic 3 together, and we were going to see it anyways together because my dad promised me, because I asked for it, that he was going to bring me to Sonic 3 as a Christmas present. So, yeah, so we went to go see Sonic 3, and I remember with all the comedy and the comedy scenes happening, I kind of just wanted to go home. I was just not in the mood to laugh and stuff. I was just really, really sad. But I'm glad I stayed because, spoilers, so we're getting into spoiler territory. So I'm glad I stayed because after Sonic and Shadow fight, they have a little talk on the moon. And that's the scene that helped me feel better. When Sonic was like, there is no winning with revenge. That struck my heart. That was the first, strike to my heart. I already promised myself that I wasn't going to take revenge because I don't believe in revenge. So I wasn't going to take revenge. I wasn't going to, retaliate. But, still that scene hit me and stuff. And then, Shadow opens up about Maria, and then Sonic opens up about Longclaw, and then Shadow asks Sonic, will the pain ever go away? And Sonic says no, but there is something more powerful than pain, the love we felt for each other. And then he tells Shadow that, that's what you have to hold on to, that even though the person you love is gone, your love will always remain. And I remember that scene spoke to me so directly. I've never had a movie scene have this effect on me where it spoke directly to my heart and stuff. And when that scene happened, that's when I really started feeling better. I feel bad because my parents and my friends did try to comfort me, but I still was feeling bad and stuff. And I feel a little silly that a movie scene with 2 talking giant hedgehogs was the reason I felt better, but I can't deny it. That's why I felt better. That scene was really the scene where I was like, I can do it. I can move on and stuff, and this will not break me. I still remember that day very clearly and stuff, and how good I felt the next day. And, you know, even though I would say I didn't handle it perfectly, this situation, I'd say I was meant to see that scene, because sometimes the things that bring you comfort are, the words that bring you comfort are words that come from, a source that is feeling what you are feeling. Like, nobody died in my life, but I did lose something. I lost somebody I cared about, I lost somebody I loved and stuff, and Shadow and Sonic were feeling what I was feeling, that sense of loss. And sometimes I think that's what people need to, be like, hey, I can move on, hey, I can do it, and that, this will not break me. So, yeah, that is my favorite scene in that movie as a result. A lot of people say the combat scenes are great, the comedy is great, but for me it was that moon scene, because that scene represented the beginning of my healing and stuff. And Sonic 3 is now my favorite movie of all time and stuff. And I never knew that a franchise that I love so much would help me in one of the most painful moments of my life. I knew that, I remember Sonic bringing me joy in my life, but it was never to the extent of this. I never thought that a franchise that would mean so much to me would mean this much to me now and stuff. I never expected that, but sometimes you get comfort from the places you least expect it. And even to this day, Sonic still brings me joy. I've come to really love the soundtrack. When I was younger, I didn't really appreciate the soundtrack. Now I do. And the message of the Sonic franchise, being free and not letting the pressures of this world break you, and that yes, you're going to have hardships in life, you're going to have responsibilities, but you can still keep going. You don't have to be shackled by the hardships of the world. You can be free. That still resonates with me as an adult, especially an adult who is struggling to find my place in this world. And so I guess what I want to say is thank you to the franchise. And no matter what, I feel the franchise will always have a special place in my heart. Sonic will always be my number one character, my number one fictional crush and stuff. And I think, no matter how many times I leave the fandom, I lose interest, I will come back. And I'm sure that it'll keep bringing joy. So, yeah, here's to another 35 years to the Sonic franchise. And thank you for everything that you've given me. Alright, so enough with the sentimentals. So thank you for watching the video, and I'll see you guys later. I'm sorry if there's a lot of pauses and it's very rambly, but yeah, anyways, 再见.